parents did. Generation after faithful generation of God's people have turned to this page and said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." And it's a reminder that no matter what we face, we do not have to be in charge of the universe. We shall trust in the one who leads us. We will believe that he is good and that his purpose is to work for good. That is the thing about uncertainty and about trials and about difficulties. When your world's turned upside down and you feel like a stranger in your own land, what you want is something familiar. What you need is something that feels like an anchor to keep you when everything else is tossing about. For generations, Psalm 23 has served an anchoring function. And it does today as well. And perhaps through all of these days, we find ourselves turning towards these words that have sustained God's people for so long. I am not okay. I'm not. And I know those words may land with a bit of a blunt edge, but I have to be honest with you. I'm not okay. I'm concerned and I'm tired of living the way we've had to live, which has only been for about a week or a week and a half. And that's not even that long of a stretch of time. But I'm weary of it. I'm weary of it because I can't see the path ahead of us. I can't see where we're going. I can't see how rough the waters get or how long the storm lasts or what the lingering effects will be. So no, I'm not okay. This is not what life's supposed to look like. It's not what life's supposed to feel like or be like. And I've got some very dear friends. You do too. Many of them in this congregation who cannot see their parents in the nursing home. They can tap on the window and look through it and talk on the phone, but that's the extent of their connection. I've got some dear friends who don't have a job right now, whose income is non-existent. I've got dear friends who are terrified to go to the grocery store. I've got dear friends who cannot have the surgery they were expecting. Some dear friends and family who spend their days and nights working at a hospital or a grocery store, and then they go home at the end of their shift, tired, bone tired. And they go back home and they worry, am I about to give an infection to the very people I'm sworn to protect? And I've got people I love very much who feel like their mental health and their emotional well-being and their very sense of stability is itself hanging by a last thread. And I've got people I love very much who are scared. And on top of all that, we're dealing with losses, the loss of community and the loss of connection with people, the very people who make life worth living. And those losses are layered upon layered. No, I'm not okay. I also realize in moments like this, though, that we're not alone. I mean, even as we maintain physical distance, we are anchored by truths that connect us in downright holy ways. And we cling to words like the 23rd Psalm, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters, and He restores my soul." These words speak to us as a testimony of the faithful who went before us, who saw that God did not leave them nor forsake them. Faithful through the ages, and He will remain so. I read this line from Bob Goff this week. God did not bring us all this way to forget our names. You see, we are doing something that's difficult right now. We are having to suspend life as we know it, and we take that seriously because it's not just about my family or your family. It's not just about our community. It's about how our community is connected to our state, and our state to our country, and our country to our world, and we realize now more than ever how connected we really are. And what we are being asked to do, most of us, it's not overly oppressive. We're being asked to stay home and not venture out unless it's necessary. And we know the guidelines. We know the guidelines that we're being asked to follow by people who study and know. And we will get some cabin fever. That's a real thing. It starts to take a toll. I don't know how many more times you can watch Frozen 2. But we may not be scratching the surface on that just yet. So get ready. Sing the songs again and again. I never thought the day would come that my 3 boys would get tired of playing video games. And yet yesterday they started talking about the toys they used to play with when they were little boys, and they climbed up in the attic and they pulled out the Hot Wheels tracks that they used to play with. They set them up all over the living room, and now, do you know they now look forward to their daily walk? That's a highlight of the day. We don't quite know how to do what we're doing because we've never done it. And yeah, you start craving things and longing for things you never thought you would long for. But you also rediscover some of who you are and who you are together and the love that binds you and holds you. It is emotionally draining. We know it is. And we can address some of that, some of the paranoia and the exhaustion. We can start by not reading every single report and article and op-ed piece that's out there. You're just going to get information overload that piles fear on fear, and it's not helping. Let's not be obsessed with hitting the reload button on our social media feed. If you read too much information, it just kind of crushes you psychologically. And yes, it brings some fear. And it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to name your fear. Lee Weems used to always talk about drinking tea with your dragons, meaning that sometimes you just have to do what I found myself doing occasionally, going and sitting in my backyard, pulling up an extra chair for my dragons and naming the fear. You name it, you say it out loud, because sometimes what we are most afraid of, it's the unknown, it's the uncertainty. So you name it. But you don't live there. You don't make your bed in that fear, because there's just too much good happening around us. And there's too much grace in you and in me to let fear define us. We will get through this. We will get through this together. Most of us are being asked to make a rather small sacrifice when you place it in the grand scheme of human history. There are others around us who are making huge sacrifices. Heroes around us like nurses, doctors, and technicians, all the hundreds of people who make a single hospital go. We will not stop praying for you. And our police and our firefighters and our military, we will not stop praying with you through this. And our folks who are working at grocery stores and pharmacies and gas stations and restaurants doing takeout orders, along with all the truck drivers helping to sustain our communities with the goods that we depend on, you are in our prayers daily, every one of you. And the work that you are doing is inspiring, and it gives me hope. And I look and I see the ways that companies and individuals are stepping up to help manufacture necessary equipment and to provide food for people who need it, and to teach folks how they can connect online so that they can maintain a sense of community with the people they love. There are some acts of heart-stirring generosity that are being carried out. Our current predicament, it will not last forever. It will not become life as we know it. It is for a season. There will be There will be birthday parties again for our kids, big ones. And yet maybe we'll be a little more mindful about eating and drinking after each other, maybe a little more diligent about washing our hands, but we will gather again to celebrate good news. There will be chips and salsa again. Amen. There will be football games at Tiger Stadium. Amen. There will be concerts and art shows and theatrical performances. There will be reservations at the big table in your favorite restaurant. There will be parades where we lift our kids higher on our shoulders for beads. There will be wedding receptions and anniversary celebrations. There will be crawfish boils where we invite the whole neighborhood. And there will be church again. Not like this. Not where we're separate in body, but fully present, breathing the same air and singing out loud in the same room. Jess Cast is a minister in New York City, and I read something from her this week. She said, here's the image she's holding on to. When we get back into the sanctuary, no matter when that will be, that is Easter. She says, imagine the hugs and imagine the tears and imagine how loudly we will sing the doxology. Imagine when we say, we got through this together. She says, I cry every time I think of it. And for that day we hope